Get to the chat. Get to the chat. All right. We're in the chat. That's a dirty monitor. Well, everybody, how y'all doing? A meal of champions. Hi. How are you all this evening? And welcome to my humble abode. Garage. Shop. Room. Wait for everyone to kind of mosey on in here. Let's just have ourselves a little chat, relax. Talk about stuff, you know, that you want to talk about. My projects. Whatever. How things are going. I usually do a lot of drone content, stuff like that. But hey, if you guys just need like to talk, you know, get stuff off your chest, you know. Let's hear it, man. I'm listening. I'm an ear for you. So, a little tobacco. Hey, Damien. Damien Dragon. Good name. What am I doing? Well, I'm just kind of chatting at this point, and you can see the ship the wooden ship I'm working on here, and I got a bunch of other projects. I got a 170 millimeter turbine engine I'm working on, and it's all 3D printed, you know, that kind of thing. So, but sometimes I just like to just get online and chat and just say hi to everybody and update you on the projects. And if you have any questions about anything you've seen in the playlist, if you had a chance to look through those, I can answer those questions. But you know, hey, if people just want to talk, man. No judgment here. Just chatting. You'd like to see said engine? All right. Not complete yet, because I'm waiting for carbon fiber rods to come in. But I'll take you over there. Hold on. Uh-oh. Come on. Uh-oh. Hold on, get my cord wrap set. Let it go, you little son of a bitch. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. There she is. The 170 millimeter 22 blade high pass EDF, powered by a FlipSky 6374 190 kilovolt motor at 48 volts, running through a 4-to-1 gear ratio. Step up gives me a maximum RPM of 36,000. I've already had one up to 15 to 20,000 on a direct drive with an 800 kV motor. It just got too hot too quick. No, I don't live in the garage. That was just sort of a joke. This is where I work. The garage is attached to a house that I live in. Traditionally, that's how it works here. So, like I was saying, the engine is going to be driven by this motor. Indexed rods will go through here, through the planetaries. This index goes on the back of the fan. It has another index rod here. And there you go, you know. 0.66 cubic, oh gosh, 0.66 kilograms per second. So about 55 pounds of thrust out of a 3D printed engine. But you know, on the other side of that, Ronnie, I actually feel like I live in the garage sometimes, because this is where I do all my work, including the TPU rubber plane with the TPU rubber prop that will not ever break, because it's TPU from the for the AMS from the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon. So you can make a full plane out of it. It's strong, still rigid, done the whole wings. I mean, I've gone over this 100 times, but the point is, it's going to be more of like an organic aileron, rudder, elevator kind of thing. And you don't have to worry about crashing it, because, you know, I mean, unless you crash it at 900 miles an hour, but here's part of a wing. Still single wall print, TPU, AMS. Can't punch through that stuff, but it's extremely rigid and still holds its shape. So when that carbon fiber rod goes down in there, it's going to keep the rigidity of the wing, be a slight natural dihedral, and an organic aileron. So, yeah, found several uses for the for that new TPU that I didn't really expect. So, yeah, there's that. But yeah, this is the engine. It's a 170 millimeter 22 blade high pass EDF. I've got the duct work done, but realistically, I can show you. I haven't assembled the engine completely yet, obviously, but these two parts obviously go onto the back of the fan, an index here, and then this part, basically the planetary gears drive the fan blade via the index to the shaft on the motor. Giggity. So yeah, we're just kind of getting things set up for that. That spin up's going to happen on a Premiere. If you look at any of the other older videos that I've done, you've seen me do spin ups with a different gear system. I had printed out of metal, which don't do that. PCB ways is not the way. CNC. So I'm going to CNC all this afterwards. I've got my bearings in, so those are all pressed in. There's like 5 in each. And then the 5 millimeter carbon fiber rod will go through there, index to here, which indexes to there, so on and so forth. 48 volts, 150 amp ESC. It only requires 80 amps for the motor, but for spiking, because of the blade pressure I get, I wanted to be able to monitor the amps, so I have the amp meter on there, running two 22.2 volt 7DC packs in series for 48 volts and 4,400 milliamps. And at half throttle, I can push this at half throttle, which is basically about 25 pounds of thrust on the engine, 11.5 amps. And that's for a skateboard motor. That's, I needed it because of the torque, 190 kV. So it is a sexy engine, that I will give you. It's a very sexy engine. But it's been a challenge to build. It's been a challenge to go through the different iterations and get it perfect. I was testing everything from the front drive system. So I had everything at the front of the blade. And then once I knew I wanted to place the engine after my gear testing was done, once I decided to put the engine behind the fan for the final, I knew I was going to have to make no one have to shoot anybody. What's it? Okay, now we're cool. The idea was that with the front drive, it was easier to test the entire system without having to remove the ductwork every single time to change out a gear pack that I had already designed for it. So I did all the testing from the front of the engine. As a matter of fact, I can probably show it to you. So I got a couple different ones here. So you can see this was the first sort of the guts of the thing, where I basically did a 4-to-1 with a smaller set of teeth. But the problem with that was the when I got it 3D printed out of metal, anybody knows and has been working with Fusion or whatever, when you're camming something out, you need to know the tolerances of the machine you're working with. So the tolerances, I couldn't get the tolerances from a manufacturer from BCBWay. They're like, oh, it's plus or minus 0.3. I'm like, well, that's really, really a large gap to kind of try to consider. Is it plus or minus? You know, I mean, like, let me know what's going on. So I had to redesign the teeth. This is going to be more for the CNC version if I run this gearbox, but this gearbox still won't be in the front afterwards. It'll be on the back of the engine like the other system is set up. So there's that. And then you've got, this was the first direct drive system that I did here. And this was a high pass fan with a low pressure turbine system, all spinning on the same system, all on the same rod, without a compressor basically. And the idea was that the low pressure air that was going through into this system would alleviate some of the torque from the motor, so I could run an 800 kV. And it worked well for a while, until the magnets got worn out on the motor, and then I had to pull the 850 kV. And hey, everyone's showing up. Cool. Come on in, have a seat, let's chat. So I had to pull the 850 kV and I put a 650 kV in because it had more torque. But it was still getting warm, so I ran it through my 48 volt ESC, which is 5 to 12S, so it could run 6S. So I plugged a 6,000 milliamp 100C 6S battery into the ESC, which is what I normally ran it with to begin with. But I dropped the timing down from 15 to 11.5 on the ESC. Well, that unlocked a whole lot of torque in that engine. And the result was that. So we know the PLA blade isn't going to hold up at those RPMs. And yeah, I caught that, like, these were flying everywhere and bouncing off me and everything. And this was, of course, just a thrust aperture for experimentation to see how much the low pressure system actually produced. So you can see kind of in the low pressure system right there, all the blades. So it was really just a test to see how much it would produce. So if it was viable to even have a low pressure system in it. So the only part of the turbine system I'm actually going to be using is just the high pass fan. But it gave me room to put the drive system behind the fan and the motor mount itself. So, there's that. So, how's everyone doing tonight? Everyone have a good Saturday, I hope. Cool. Like when you guys just come and hang out, man. Come and hang out. Check out all the projects. Share with your friends. Subscribe. Please. Because it helps me out. And if I do end up actually getting monetized at one point, everything I make is going to go right back into this stuff for you guys. I do have links for Patreon. And I do have links for Buy Me a Coffee in there where you can go donate if you want to. It's not an obligation. All these STL files, once this fan is perfected and we do this run, which is actually coming up within the next couple of days, as soon as the carbon fiber rods get here, then everything will be made available to you guys, so you can put together your own 170 millimeter high pass fan that pushes the model you design around it or whatever, or build around it. And I was going to put it in an F-35 model that was sort of scaled to the size of the engine compartment. The engine compartment was scaled to the size of the outer casing right here, so that would be the size of your engine casing. And then the thrust to weight ratio with this entire system, including that ductwork over there, which you wouldn't be using if you put it in a jet that you design. The entire thrust to weight ratio was about 7 pounds. So, the whole system weighed about 7 pounds, and it pushed 55 pounds. So that is your thrust to weight ratio. So if you design an aircraft, whether you're laser cutting ply to get the forms to make your body for your plane, or however else you decide to build it, the idea is you could just drop this engine in. You could drop it into a twin engine. You could put 2 of them in. It's for a larger scale RC craft, but you could also put a couple of these, or even one, on a large glider, something with a decent sized wingspan that would give you a long range and some serious loitering time, especially if you're running INAV and you're doing patrol patterns or whatever. But you could get to some pretty high altitudes, as long as you have clearance from the FAA. Don't break any rules. I'm not telling you to do that. Ceiling is 400 feet unless you have clearance. Closing up the store. Oh yeah, wasn't PXD printing up a bunch of ducks or something like that you were selling? You were selling enough? He was like saying you were printing up a bunch of ducks and stuff that you were selling. So you guys better send me a duck. I want one of the ducks. Yeah, I'll put it right smack dab in the middle of the drone. And it's done. Shrike XL, the duck transporter. That'd be kind of funny, I think. Yep. Anyway, I'm gonna have these things laying all over the house by the time I'm done. Too many turbines. You can never have too many turbines. One of the main reasons why I did this is because I wanted to build an aircraft that was larger, kind of like a Harrier or an SR-72 Dark Star kind of plane that ran both of these engines, or 2 of these engines. And I was like, I want to build one, but like the closest I could get to the well, actually they didn't. I think it was 8 kilograms or 12 kilograms, something like that. Schubler. I'm sure they have motors that can put out some pounds thrust, but you're gonna drop 5-10 grand on getting a pair of them. And I'm not trying to knock them for that. I'm sure that they deserve what they get paid for their motors, but it just seemed like a very expensive part of the hobby that a lot of people couldn't get their hands into because of the price of those EDFs. So I wanted to design something that you could get off-the-shelf components from Amazon, put this thing together, and then have a motor that's, I guarantee you, probably going to put out more more thrust than the Schublers. I mean, I don't know what their biggest motor is, but this is 170 millimeter. So, and that's the fan diameter. So, I think they have a 150, or maybe they have bigger ones. I don't know. I saw a couple of them. When I got to the $5,000 mark, I was like, well, we're not going here. So, because I mean, I couldn't afford to get one of those anyway. I'm trying to make something that people can save some money on. It's modular. If something fails, they can pull it out, 3D print another part, or if they decide to have it CNC'd. So it's going to be designed to be both, 3D printable and CNC, so that you can just build your own engine, have some fun. I'm personally making a drone out of 4 of those. So, that's going to be cool. Sags. What's going on? Just chatting this evening. Hanging out, talking about stuff that's going on. Have you all ever been reels surfing, like on the reels, like on Instagram or something like that, and you just, some of the stuff you come across is just, how is this? I mean, I know some of it's satire, but how do people actually believe half of this stuff? And then some of the stuff that gets the most views are the ones where people are just getting seriously injured, and yet they don't want to promote violence, which makes no sense. But hey, it is what it is, right? I was surfing on a reel, just surfing through the reels and checking them out, and I came across a guy that said something about water. I think it was, he goes, what? I'm hoping it was satire. I really do. He was saying something about water is, it dissolves just about everything. So why do we drink water? If it dissolves this and it dissolves that. And I'm like, somebody needs to tell him that he's 70% water. And then he'll probably be scared to death. So I didn't get it. And then, man, I've been getting hit hard too by all these like mushroom supplements and mushroom coffee reels and stuff like that. I'm like, who the hell's going to do that? I'm not going to drink that. It's like, here's a crushed up fungus. Enjoy. And then what was it earlier? They were talking about the next pandemic's going to be probably a fungal type of thing. So, and now they're pushing the fungus stuff. The shrooms, everything mushroom related, or shroom related, or fungi related. I feel like they're setting us up for the next one, And then you get the conspiracy theories on the reels, right? Where you're talking about people thinking we live on a flat Earth. That's just, I don't know how the hell you GPS anywhere that way, but more power to you. I'm not gonna judge you for your belief, but if you're gonna throw it in my face, you'll get a retort. It's just, for me, it's just, one guy was trolling, and I had made a comment, I think, on one where somebody launched a rocket like really high up in the air, and the lens on it was, I don't think it was a fisheye lens. $15.60, yeah, we're getting there, Sags, getting there. I want 1 million viewers by the time this live's over. Just kidding. Let's see. No, there was this. It was a rocket reel, and what happened was they're trying to say that there's like a dome over the planet, and gravity doesn't exist and everything else. Good Lord, I could go on for days on this subject, but the parachute deploys, and they go, "See, there you go. It hit the dome." And I made a comment where I said, so an ejection charge is the dome of the world? and I did a laughy face, nothing. It was just funny to me. And then this guy gets on and goes, "Oh, my 12-year-old daughter grabs my phone and like trolls and like triggers people. Looks like you were triggered." I said, "How was I triggered? I just laughed at it because it was funny, to think people could be that ignorant." Um, and he wrote me back again and goes, "Oh, she writes this stuff down in her journal and thinks it's funny. She likes to troll people and blah blah blah." Because I had told him, I said, "Why are you letting her do this kind of negative thing? If that's the truth, it was probably him, and he just didn't want to admit to it because he didn't want to look like the ass that he was making himself out to be." But so he blames them as 12-year-old. I'm like, I wasn't making any kind of like insult or anything like that. But if you're doing stuff like this, I mean, it makes me think that she needs help, and there's problems in the home or something. And then he goes, "Oh, so now you're gonna attack a 12-year-old, blah blah blah." Like, I go, "Well, why?" I'm thinking to myself, why are you answering for her if she's the one that's having so much fun doing this? And after a while, he just stopped responding because I told him, I said, I mean, if you're letting your child do this, promoting chaos for the purposes of entertaining themselves, then you should be ashamed of yourself as a parent. After that, I didn't hear anything. So I guess he ran out of vocabulary. So I found that funny. He thought he was trolling, probably giggling his stupid ass off, thinking that he somehow triggered me. And I found the whole thing, the whole interaction, um, quite entertaining, actually. And I had written very like small sentences and stuff like that so he could comprehend. And it was funny because what he wrote back was like 3 paragraphs long each time. So I'm like, doesn't sound like I was the one that was triggered. Sounds like maybe you were the one that was triggered, and you need to get over yourself. And you're not acting like a man, so put your apron back on and get in the kitchen, because your wife's obviously the man of the house. So yeah, it was funny. It was, and I try to be respectful to people who throw insults back at me, but there's that part of me, man, who does not want to be a Christian man, and sometimes I get to the point where I'm going to start typing this. The Holy Spirit goes, "Backspace that out of there right now." And I gotta listen, because I'm a man of faith. So I try to be respectful to some people. I say some. I try to respect. Take that back. I try to be respectful to all people. It's hard though. Have you guys been outside? It's hard to be respectful to people. I get like attacked by Karens and stuff like that in stores. And so what if my shirt says "straight white Republican male"? How else may I piss you off today? One of my favorite shirts. Um, and then they go off on you, but you can avoid them. You can avoid them, and the easiest way to do that is like if you see a septum piercing, just to go down another aisle. Purple hair and a septum, they're gonna find you. So, yeah, it's sort of like surviving in the wild almost. It's like on this episode of surviving in the urban environment, the bluehead septum monster is a unique creature, and they must be avoided at all times. They are triggered by sometimes just breathing oxygen. So, it's just the way it goes. You could do a whole channel on it. And I think some people do. Whole channels on. They get a lot more views than I do, I'll tell you that. Because I guess somebody's screaming into a camera about, they don't like Donald Trump and he's going to destroy the world. Well, he didn't destroy it the first time, and then he didn't get reelected, and then now everything's so expensive you can't afford to live. And that was all during the Biden administration. You know, and it wasn't any better with, you know, Obama and his husband in office. So basically, I mean, look, you know, anytime Trump does anything, he's letting everybody in the Oval Office, he's telling them everything he's doing. He's not hiding anything. He's not trying to make the rich richer. He's trying to give back to the people who paid taxes when the Democrats were funneling money through bullshit companies so it could go right back to them. And, you know, I mean, who goes in, and you guys probably know the Democrat I'm talking about, who goes in literally broke and comes out of Congress $63 million richer? You ain't making that kind of salary. Okay. So, you know, whatever. And they're upset, you know, this is tax cuts are for the wealthy, not for the poor. And they're like, you guys are the wealthy. What are you complaining about? We've been wealthy off of our tax money for ages. You know? Gosh, I couldn't believe it. Some people do need to practice math, though, because there was some lady who put, you know, Doge found $500 million and there's only 350 million people in the U.S., you know, everyone could get $1 million. And I went, okay, let's take a look at that math. That's actually about $1.43 a piece, not $1 million. You would need well over 300 trillion to give everyone in the United States $1 million. So, yeah, I think they should have taken that 500 million and funneled it back into the education system. So yeah, that probably would have been more beneficial. So I'm hoping they do that, because education is important. Man, anybody with a beard out there, you know what you go through when you eat and drink with a beard. Take a drink of something and it's like, you know, you've got rock star glistening dew coming and it's just a nightmare sometimes. You have to gauge the bites you take out of your food. You go, how much is this getting into the beard before it goes into my you know, it's like, ugh, man. It's a chore sometimes, but I like it. Yeah. So, I'm a lucky man. Your boss lets you tell people off? That's funny. I like that. Try working in retail. Folks are mad and rude, and our company wants us to nod and take it. No, I could never work in retail. I couldn't. Not nowadays. Back in the day, yeah. I mean, but most of the jobs I started off with was like I was doing lumping. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. That's when you're waiting at a cold store, like in a room in a cold storage facility, for a trucker to come in and use lumpers to move 30,000 cases for $20 into a 58-foot trailer in a frozen goods warehouse. That's where I started off. And then I went to, I won't say the name of it because I don't know if they're still in business. And I don't want to like blast their name all over the place. But it was a saw and tool manufacturer. So I was making blades, you know, heat treat, stamping out the blades for saws, and then heat treating them, grinding them down, getting the carbides put on, and then, you know, diamond wheeling the carbides to the specifications of the blade, that kind of thing. So those were my first jobs, and that was so long ago. I was only making $4.25 an hour. Yeah, that's how old I am. I would ride my T-Rex to work, and then, you know, fight off a saber tooth, get to work, clock in, and then, you know, do my job. So that's the way it was back then. So, but yeah, you're right, Zag. I'm lucky, if you're talking to me, that is. I'm I'm trying to catch up on the chat, so I don't know if you're congratulating somebody else. Um, but yeah. Yeah, it's been, this whole thing I've been doing has been a huge adventure for me. And being, you know, basically retired Army, not really being able to do much else. Um, it's fun for me to create. I like to create, so that's what I'm doing. And I want to create some new things. Not so much at this point products for resale. That's not what I'm going for. I'm going for the entertainment value. I'm going for, because if I was building a product I wanted to sell, I wouldn't be giving people the STL files afterwards, would I? I don't want to do the whole mass manufacturing thing where I'm CNCing everything and, you know, trying to sell them off, because then I'm going to end up being up in that price range where it's not good for us hobbyists to stay in it, you know. Granted, there are some hobbyists that do have enough money to spend $20,000 on, you know, 4 EDFs that are super expensive, and then you got the batteries and everything else. And it's like, I know a guy, I don't know him personally, but I've seen him on YouTube. He built a beautiful C130. It was just huge. It was a huge C130, and I think the motors were Schubler. But I mean, the battery packs were like putting a briefcase inside the, you know, not going that far yet. I personally plan on building a quad that I can ride using these engines. These engines will scale up. So, and when you scale them up, then you scale the KV down on the motor and stick with the same gear ratio. That gives you more torque and, you know, same comparable RPMs as you scale up. So, you know, if I go 3 times more, then I'm going to probably stick with like a 65 kV motor, something that stays 48 volts, and it'll push something 3 times that size, and through the 4-to-1 step-up ratio, then you know, it can handle it. So I have found a good motor pairing for my gear ratio. So that's really was the main concern about all this, was finding the perfect motor and gear ratio so the motor would run, it wouldn't overheat, the batteries, things like that. So keeping the amps low. At half throttle, when you're running only 11 amps, 11.5 amps, that's pretty good. So we've got ourselves a good combination. So scaling up from that, you just take the numbers and scale up. So I know a lot of people think that it's crazy that I'm going to be doing this, but I am going to build an SR72 Darkstar model that houses 2 of these engines. So the model is not going to be too big, but big enough to generate enough lift for the weight that it's going to be with the engines and the packs in it and the gear. And I'm going to have to get goggles and a camera, like I mentioned. And I am going for Mach 1. I'm going to go get as close as I can to Mach 1. That's my goal. If I get anywhere close to that, I'm happy. But, you know, you got to set your goals high. You know, and if I break the sound barrier with it, and it survives breaking the sound barrier once it gets through that pressure wave, hey, there you go, right? If you do the calculations on this with the thrust to weight ratio, I think the last projected thrust to weight ratio I got was about 670 miles per hour, somewhere around there. But I was only at about 80% throttle. So what I'm going to have to end up doing is take advantage of gravity a little bit, get up to 400, come down. I'm going to have to get way out, so it's going to have to be done with goggles. And I'm going to have a VTX fast enough to keep up with it, because I don't know if I'm going to get signal loss at 600 miles per hour. So so I've got to consider that when I'm testing everything, to make sure that I don't lose signal, because I'm going to have to fly by goggle. There's no way you're flying by line of sight, because I'm going to be half a mile out, before I get up to speed I need. So I'm going to have to go behind where I'm at, where I take off from, about half a mile, maybe quarter mile, start picking up speed from altitude, drop down to a reasonable velocity, so probably about 200 feet, and then basically hope to hit my top speed as I'm passing over the top of where we took off. And hey, if you hear that sound barrier break, then I made it. So just tell you what, we're working on some projects for him about to take a loan. Oh yeah, you're taking a loan? Pocket NC, man, pocket NC. That's all I'm saying. It looks like a decent machine, and I'm thinking to myself, since I designed the fan in this system, on my X1 Carbon, I can print the fan in one piece. So everything's printed together. But on the CNC version, I have designed it to where you have a hub and removable blades. So on the Pocket NC, I could probably, because it's 5-axis, so I can probably CNC out all the stuff I need of aircraft grade aluminum for the hub and the blades, and then any other part that I want to be alloy. And there will be some minor design changes from the FDM printing side to the CNC side, but not very much. And that's more or less just going to be how the sun gear couples with the shaft that couples with the fan through the rotator shaft and then through the bearing hub. So most of that's going to probably be CNC'd. We know the planetaries are going to be CNC'd in the ring gear. But the stator casing can still be, an FDM printed material. And the fan casing that goes around the outside, which is this part right here, which houses the fan blade itself. This is the stator casing right here, which holds the bearing. So these can all still be 3D printed. And any duct work or anything. But anything that is basically requiring direct load, I'm hoping to get CNC. So I don't necessarily have to CNC every single part. And the reason for that is because once we test this fan, the one I have on the bench, the rear drive fan, once we test it, target velocity on the blades is 32,000 RPMs. That's doable if you do the math. 48 volts times 190 kV times 4, it's roughly 36,000 RPMs, but I'm trying to be conservative with it. So we're gonna shoot for 32,000 RPMs, which is just about full throttle, close to it, about 90%, and hope that the PETG blades hold together. If they hold together at 32,000 RPMs, then we've got ourselves something that's repeatable. And then at that point, I'll keep running it till the battery's dead, and then I'll basically take everything apart. So everything's modular, screwed together. I take it apart, I'll check the PETG planetaries, see how they look. I'll check the fan blade, make sure there's no cracks, deformations, things like that. The main shafts, check everything. The main shaft actually that the fan is attached to is made out of TPU for the AMS, which is the same stuff I built that plane out of. So it's really rigid when it's printed with a solid infill. So, but it has that slight bit of dampening because it's a rubber-based TPU. But it's the only one that you can run through the AMS on the X1 Carbon, because regular TPU obviously would be too soft. But the because of this is a smaller part, and because it has that flexibility, and the layer bonding on it is so tremendous that it's going to be great for catching small vibrations you can't really compensate for in FDM printing. So that is that's that's an advantage when it comes to printing. And I have discovered that this, obviously, that this TPU for the AMS has several more uses than just standard TPU. And I actually spun the fan up with it. One of the previous fans I spun with a TPU ring gear, TPU sun gear, TPU planetary gears, and it ran for a while. It got almost a half throttle before it ate itself, but that was because of heat. The heat generated from the friction from 4 to 1, because you're putting a lot of torque on that sun gear. So that's one of the main reasons why I decided to kind of go back to the drawing board on the planetaries and the whole planetary gear system, was to have way more teeth engagement and then see how it operates. I'm using Interflon HT1200 paste, which is great for high pressure, high heat applications. And I also have the Fin Super, which is kind of thins it out if I need to, but it's more or less for metal. But those are both great lubricants for this. And when you're doing FDM, you want to have some kind of lubricant that's going to stay with it. So that paste is the paste is actually a really good choice for that. And eventually, everything will be encased as far as the planetaries and the front and back of the planetary gear holder, so that once it's CNC'd of any kind of alloy that I choose to use, I can either grease it like you would a sealed bearing, which is probably the route I'm going to go, because I'm going to put fins on the outside of the gearbox since it's sitting behind the fan, and that should dissipate the heat generated by the rotation of the gears. If that doesn't dissipate heat enough, and I end up finding out that I'm doing static testing, and the heat gets too high in the gearbox, then I can always figure out another way to cool it. We'll come up. That's what engineering is all about. Is you add what you have to, and not what you want. You add what you have to. Less parts, the better. Hey, Buck, Rob, how's everybody doing tonight? Yeah, you found alternatives to sintering? Well, yeah, we found a couple different ideas as far as that goes. I still think the Pocket NC is a good choice to try. The problem is when you're dealing with, obviously, desktop CNC machines like that, you've got to be really careful of the quality of it, because it's like, well, how much backlash you got to deal with? Does it cut things perfectly according to the step file? Am I camming it out of Fusion? Does it have its own cam software? Am I having to generate my own tool library? Does it come with its own tool library with the tools that it does come with, and that are available for it? Because it seems like it's a standalone unit. You'd have to, more or less, unless it has different call-its where you can just use standard cutting tools. But I almost wish I could get sample parts from them and just kind of see if it's going to meet my needs, because this project's going to require a level of precision when it comes to an alloy version of the model that leaves little room for error. So if the Pocket NC is a good machine, if anyone's ever had one or used it, your input would be invaluable at this point, because I have to make a decision on what I'm going to do when it comes to going that far. And in order to make that decision, I need to kind of, get information from people who actually have used the machine and not just go off of what they say on the website. Ten octo, 20K a pop. Yeah, that's a good question. Now, the interesting thing about that though is they have different variations. You can put different or different chucks inside the Pocket NC. I think it's designed where you can drop a different chuck into it and hold larger material or different shapes of material, your stock material. And then I think there was an option where you had like a collet or a quick swap spindle. So I kind of like the quick swap idea, because then you can kind of set your tool, because you've got to be able to. The one thing I don't want to have to do every single time I load a tool in is make sure that it's sitting at the shoulder where it's supposed to be, and that the depth of it is where it's supposed to be. And if I have each one of the tools programmed in the swappable version, then everything's locked down. You've got your tool in there, it's in far enough, the measurements are already in Fusion, you know how far it's going into the holder, you know how much of a shoulder you have for the fillets start, or the flutes, the cutting flutes, and then you know how long your cutting flutes are, and everything's pre-programmed in, and then you just swap the tool, as opposed to having to unchuck the tool and then put another one in and go, okay, am I at the right distance? That kind of thing. But I'm going to assume that regardless of whether it's a chuckable or swappable, that they have a how should I say this? Basically, a probe system built into it, to where your stock is the negative, the tool is the positive, and then regardless of where that tool is, it basically knows where the tool is in relation to the stock, and then kind of goes around and probes it with the tool instead of using a probe. So that seems to me it would save a step. Kickstart laser cutter multi-tool, rust remover for. I like those rust removers. Those are kind of cool. So like those laser cleaners, you get mesmerized by just listening to them sometimes. Something like atomizing iron oxide, right? Plasma cutter. Well, yeah, but that depends really on how precise the plasma cutter is. Because I've got a plasma table sitting in the warehouse. It's a Torchmate. But the thing is, it's how rough the cut is on the edge. And to be honest with you, and I've even thought about, can we make the CNC the hub and then make the blades out of a sheet aluminum 7075 and just press forge it, or like make tool steel hammer forge dies for each part and then hammer forge it. I've thought about everything to try and figure out how to do this in a way where it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg to get the machines. But it's almost impossible. It's not going to happen. So you're going to end up spending anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 just to get a machine set up necessary to do the CNCing I'm talking about. Because these are precision cuts, and they can't. You know, I have to weigh each individual blade as it comes off, find the lightest one, and then go back and adjust each one of the blades. And hopefully, the tolerances are good. Passing car, loud music. Okay. Good Lord, man. It's like, put some foam under your license plate. If you can afford that kind of subwoofer, stop your car from vibrating, you know? Because it doesn't sound good to us. It doesn't sound good at all. It sounds like a spring that's constantly hitting something. You know? And then the guy in the car, he's not hearing that. So he's like rolling around thinking, this sounds really good. And on the outside, it sounds like all over the place. So it's like, okay, whatever, man. $2,500. Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. I'm catching up with the chat. Yeah, I used to be into having a large speaker system in my car. I used to love working on cars. Loved it because of how I had to grow up. I learned how to do it on my own. I didn't go to any mechanic school. Any mechanic that knows what he's doing didn't go to school. They grew up broke and had to survive. That's how they became good mechanics. That's how it works, you know. Being rich and having the money to send yourself to the best school doesn't mean you're smart enough to understand anything. So, I mean, some of these entitled kids who are like, I go to Harvard. Well, good for you. You just spent a whole shit ton of money. And you probably didn't even need to, because you're probably never going to have to work anyway, because you already have generational wealth. So, what is it? Street cred? Harvard street cred? Bastards. Great part about never having any money is you don't miss it. Until you're trying to do shit like this. Then you kind of miss it. But to be honest with you, if I was rich, not only would it be extremely dangerous, I'd probably be flying around in something and being chased by F-22s. I'd be like, I'm just testing, leave me alone. That kind of thing. So, and I think the struggle with not having a lot of income to do these kind of projects is finding out innovative ways to do it. Hence the reason for the motor itself, or the turbine, or the engine, or whatever you want to call it. I know I get called out for that all the time. It's not an engine, it's a turbine. It's like, dude, thank you, Mr. Thesaurus, but I did need the lesson. I don't care what you call it. If it makes you feel better at night when you go to bed, fine. It's a turbine. There you go. And that's just one of the things I can't believe people complain about. But the point is that engine itself is really an example of the idea that you can't afford to get really the high-end stuff that's pre-built. It's about innovating to where you can get the same results much cheaper. And now every 3-letter agency has entered the chat, and they're probably gonna look for me. When I take off with this drone, with this Strike XL, people are gonna be reporting UFO sightings because it's big. It's a big drone. You guys already know the lights I'm putting all over it. And put those Jersey drones to shame. You know what I mean? Let me have this drone. So I'd be honest. I hope it makes the news. That's what I wanted to do. I hope it scares enough people. Not scares them, but like freaks them. They're like, "What is that?" You know, and then everyone's doing video on it. That'd be great. And then the news was like, mysterious object flying over the Central Valley. Nobody knows what it is. You know, another drone sighting. And then with my luck, friggin' Newsom would send up a friggin' F-22 and they'd shoot it down. Because shooting down an aircraft over a populated area is much safer than just leaving it alone. But yeah, what does Newsom know, right? He couldn't figure out that water put out fires until all of LA was pretty much gone. So we need to get his ass out of office, man. And turn this state red again. You know? I mean, come on. I mean, think about it. They're like, you know, they think they're the way. You know, blue is the way. No, it isn't. It's not. It's not. It's just not. It's not. Look how expensive everything is here. And you're gonna tell me we're doing good? You know, because the most of the people who run this state are Democrat. You know, it's like, let's compare. You know, and then they're all getting pissed off because we're finding all the stolen money, and people are like mad at Elon Musk. They're like mad at him. It's like, what are you mad at him for? You're pissed off because he has access to the same thing that corrupt people have access to, that have been stealing the money to begin with. Why are you mad at him? He's telling you all about it. Like, oh, they're dismantling Social Security. I haven't been affected one time by anything that he's done. Not once. And so I don't know why everyone's screaming about it. Everybody screams about it. That before anything happens, they're already making stuff up. You know, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. It's like, God, you guys have been trained by the media to be pandemic whores. I'm telling you, that's all there is to it. It's like the next disaster is right around the corner. Pass out the N95 masks, which did nothing. So it's like, they're like, take the shot, it'll save your life. And then all the people who took the shot, you know, are like, a lot of them died. And I'm not laughing because of that. I'm laughing because of the logic behind that. You know, it's like, if you take a shot and then all of a sudden you got a heart condition, it didn't work. You know, so that's what happens when you push out, you know, a vaccine like that without proper testing, because of fear, because of the fear people have. And then you lock down the whole city and cause, you know, basically seed the inflation right then and there, because then they start passing out money. Stay home, it'll keep everyone safe. It didn't do a damn thing. I mean, let's be real. You know, you're gonna tell me something came out of China that lasted more than 13 days? I mean, you know, they could have. Have you ever bought anything from Temu? It's like, you're gonna say, you know, I don't know. It's like, if you would think if China was the culprit and we're sitting here not doing shit about what they did, then it means that somebody here was behind it. And if China gets strung up, then the person here, Fauci, excuse me, who's responsible, would be strung up as well. But you know, who cares? All they were all trying to do is figure out how to make that video clearer about the so-called cocaine they found in the White House. It's like, how can you have the most secure location in the planet with the shittiest cameras, okay? I've got a Samsung that's 10 years old that has a camera better than what they have that apparently they, you know, couldn't find. You know, of course they couldn't find the cocaine. As soon as Hunter realized where he left it, he went and got it. Ain't no fiend leaving anything on the table. I'm telling you. I mean, it's like we can't find it. We don't know where he went. You know, and like Hunter's like, yeah, man, I don't know where it went either. I was right there. You know, I don't know where it went. I mean, come on, freaking black circles under that. I mean, just give me a break. It's fucking ridiculous. Then the Democrats act like they're getting hurt. You know, Trump's doing horrible things to the world. No, he isn't. He's just emptying out your bank accounts of our tax money. And you don't like that shit. Get over it. Looks like you're going to have to figure out another way to make your mortgage. And Epstein ain't helping you anymore. So, there is that. I mean, there's been like celebrities that have said, like, if the Epstein list comes out, we're leaving the country. Well, if that's not an admission of guilt. And to be perfectly honest with you, when you think about it, they're like saying that Trump started an insurrection, but Biden had to pardon the January 6th committee. I don't know about you guys, but that's just telling that's just a tell-all right there. It's like you're pardoning people for we haven't even heard about for stuff that we don't even know about yet. So you're telling us everything you did, but I'm going to pardon this individual if in fact at one point they did this specifically. I mean, you know, and then I think there was one judge that was like, you can't pardon somebody if they haven't been convicted or charged with some kind of crime. So they nullified some of the pardons. And so those people are like, get on the plane, we're getting out of here. You know? Oh, I'm telling you. I'm just glad they're cracking down on all this stuff that's been going down. You know? And it's just the disgusting world we live in. You know? What they've done to children. I mean, my gosh. It's insane. It's completely insane. Well, God bless all of you too. uh, am I missing out on a conversation in chat? We got a whole 9 viewers again. I must not be that pretty. Yeah. I guess you got to be like, you know, there was a what's her name? I think it's Sniper something or other. My girls used to watch her. And I think the only reason why she gets any views is because she's not that intelligent. I don't want to be mean, but she's reacting to videos that are already on the internet. So it's like, how are you making so much money? And then I figured it out. She's equipped with airbags, 5 of them. She's sitting on 2. 2 are hanging from her chest, and 1's at the end of her neck. So, and for some reason, that's appealing to everybody. They're not even watching the videos that she's reacting to. They're just watching her. So it's like, you know, it's YouTube prostitution. That's what it is. That's all it is. YouTube prostitution. You got the right curves and enough cleavage showing, you're a YouTube star with absolutely no freaking talent to speak of. I guess that's all it takes, right? But no, let's create something that's really cool took a lot of engineering and a lot of testing, and I'm doing it with no money, and I've got like 1,500 subscribers. Like, it's laughable. Like, some people can put out a video like the lady I just mentioned, and 21 million views in like 3 days. I haven't hit, I think the highest video account I got was, or viewer count I got was like when I did the CNC behind me, and that was like 12,500 at one time, and I was excited over that. I was like, that was good. That was a lot of views. I was proud of myself. And then I see some other videos, and they're like, just some of the shorts. Some videos having, 4 days ago, and it has 561,000 views. And the guy, and the channel's been up for like 2 years. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. We're almost at that state. And I know I haven't been outside doing a lot of flying, but I did that when I was testing the Shrike. Then I had to come back in the shop, and I had to redesign everything for the bigger one. So yeah, we'll be out there flying again, and with a much bigger aircraft. But if that's what it is, people not seeing me flying stuff a lot, then I can understand how listening to me ramble on might be boring for a while, or watching the development of the fan. Some people like it because they like the engineering aspect, the iteration aspect. But realistically, it's just a matter of getting it finished, and then after this test is done and it's successful, then I've got to get 3 more motors, 3 more ESCs, 6 more batteries, 3 more BECs, a lot more filament, a couple carbon fiber rods, collection of stuff. And then even if I'm not CNCing anything, I'm still going to fly this whole thing 3D printed. So, it's going to be fun. The Shrike drone worked, so the Shrike XL will work. And that's what we're going to do. But, run the machines. What machines? What machines are you referring to? Are you serious? School bus yellow. What, for the drone? Yeah, my CNC and printers, 24 hours. It's a school bus yellow. I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get one. Like when I get a chance, I'm gonna get a whole bunch of this school bus yellow and make it like that. The Shrike drone. Everybody like, look, there's a flying school bus. Is this Fortnite? That'd be funny. I don't play Fortnite. I tried playing a little bit ago. I do some gaming online just for fun, Sometimes I'll try and stream it like I'm playing Call of Duty, but the older Call of Duties they were a lot more fun because it wasn't such an unrealistic game at that point. They got it to a point where it was really good, and they decided, let's mess it up and add people with superpowers, or people who are able to slide 30 feet while they're shooting. Or they do mouse and keyboard so fast, it's like not even realistic. So I think that's why I kind of liked when I was introduced to Delta Force, because it was more realistic. And matter of fact, now I'm going to go play it when I'm done here. I'm probably not going to stream it. I got to get better at it first. Because I keep going into the missions they keep telling me about. They're like, you're not supposed to do this solo. I'm like, That's all I needed to hear. And I'm doing it solo. 3 steps in, I'm shot, I'm down. Like somebody get me up. And the guys are on the mics. They're like, dude, you can't run out there like that. I'm like, why not? You know, if you guys are gonna back me up and heal me, I'll run out there and draw their fire. I took out a sniper at the top of a tower with a pistol. It was funny. Bellwether Industries. Volar. I don't think I've ever seen that. Now I have to look it up. Yeah, I went in solo. PXD. I went in. It was a mistake, but I did it. I'll check it out, but I mean, it's like Bellwether Industries. Okay, I'll check it out. See what you're talking about. I don't know. I'm not privy to all the stuff that's out there, but that's mainly because I've been focusing on this engine. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna kind of show it to you real quick, and I think I'm gonna be called in for dinner here pretty quick. So we'll take a closer look. One of the things I was gonna do that we'll have to do next time is my brother dropped off some metal glow for my sword. So I'm going to end up basically trying to see how good it is for this bad boy here. And it's called Metal Glow. He says it's great, works on everything, but the main thing I had was in the sheath, I'm getting rust out of it. And this is a functional blade. So, you know, it bends, flexes like it's supposed to. It's a very sharp blade. So, and I use it sort of for home defense, you know. They kind of frown on you if you carry it in public. But there she is. Beautiful blade. I just need to polish her up. Very well balanced. So, and you can see that vibration in it. I'm trying to show it to you. See that flex. So, it's a good blade. Scares the living hell out of the trespassers, I'll tell you that. But, that being said, some of you might recognize the crest. But we'll polish that next time. So that everyone can see what's going on. That's what I was going to do, but I'm going to get in trouble here real quick. If I don't go in and eat dinner. So what we'll do is we will leave you with this. Doesn't she look sweet now? Look at that. I haven't bolted those cases together yet on the sides. But she's looking good. And she's smooth as butter when it comes to the rotation. So so you haven't bolted anything together yet. I gotta get all that stuff in there after the rods get here. Index it to the fan. Get everything bolted in. Bolt these down. Then run my bolts through here to the fan casing so that I can hold the fan in place. And then she'll be ready to go. And then once I make this, when I put this on the drone, PXD, that's going to be the same color as your outfit. So sort of a retro crash dummy. And then we'll go from there. I see I've got my bearings in there. So almost all the way down. And I'm going to put a ring down here out of PETG to kind of guide that carbon fiber rod through. And then that'll index to the back of the fan's shaft. Giggity. And then the rods will be spun with this, which I redesigned and reinforced so that we don't have any rocking back and forth on these pieces here. So I reinforced it with this ring, and this collet will attach directly to the bottom of the Flip Sky. And this will hold and the entire mount will be held against the back of the casing. So it's designed to bolt into the back of the casing of the fan stator. And then we'll be ready to go. So we're just about ready. Like I said, I haven't really assembled anything. I've just kind of been fitting. Oh my gosh. That's definitely low friction when you can spin the outer casing and the fan barely moves. I think it's going to spin fairly well. I don't know. What do you think? That's just beautiful right there. It's beautiful. And see, and I have to hold it down with chains. It has to be held down with chains. So chains and metal rods, and then this rope. Because if I don't, it's gonna fly off of this thing. So yeah, there she is. And I'll put my cap on here with a 4mm screw down the middle of the shaft. Giggity, once again. And then that'll kind of hide that and kind of, give it a little bit more of a finished look. But it'll keep the fan from moving the index rod at all as it torques. Because I don't want it to pull it out of here, but it shouldn't, because this outer casing is bolted directly to the stator on the back. So everything is going to be fixed, but removable. So you can take the screws out, take everything apart, change something if you need to, and then put it back together really quickly. So that's kind of why I went with, this design. 4mm screws, run the short ones down, bolt it together. And then same here, all the way around, and that'll go into the bolt holes on the fan casing. And that'll hold the ductwork on there. And like I said, the ductwork is an alternative. It's just, it's more of a, not alternative. It's a, it's an option. So if but it's really just for testing the thrust output, because we're going from 170, I think, down to 150 roughly as far as the output. So we know exactly how much distance we're traveling here. We are going to get some compression through there. But it should be a fairly linear flow. We'll test the how linear the flow is by putting some yarn in different places all the way around the casing on the outside, tape it on there, run the fan, and see if it vortexes them as it comes out. Like I did a test before on Stubby V1 with that, and you could see the vortex. You could see how the flow wasn't very totally linear, so you had to have some other stators after the actual main stator for the fan to kind of have some flow rectification through the duct. But that could be something you would incorporate into your model, like if you drop this in a plane, because you're not using this case on your plane. You're just using this, and then that setup that's bolted on the back of it. And that will be basically how this engine is presented. I'll give you the STL files for this, but realistically, you really won't need them unless you're just having fun testing it on the stand yourself or a stand. But I'll make them, it's all going to be available soon. As soon as we get everything run up, tested, proven, and reliable. So stick around for that. I got to head into dinner before I get grounded by the wife. And we got to get things ready for this spin up. Just waiting for those carbon fiber rods. As soon as they get here, I'm going to get them shaped, and I'm going to get them cut down to size and mounted up. Then we'll be ready to go. So I'll film that, and like I said before, it'll be probably a premiere So they'll be there. I'll be on mic, and I'll be able to get into chat and talk to everybody and talk about everything that's going on. But it'll be a premiere for the simple reason that it'll allow me to answer questions as you're watching the video for the first time. So that's probably the route I'm going. And it'll give me a chance, like I said before, to use my NT1 microphone to couple with the video so that you have that pure sound from the fan. I want you all to be able to hear that. So that's where we're going to go with it. So hope you all have a good Saturday evening and a great rest of your weekend. And I will see you probably early next week for the premiere of Stubby Fan version 5. The spin up. Fingers crossed. And I'm going to be like over there in the corner running it. So I'm not over here in the front. The camera will be here. I have one camera here. And probably another camera on the scale over here. It's going to give you an idea of the weight that's pushing. And then we'll go from there. So until then, I will see you all again very soon. Have a great night.